As we approach the fourth segment of this series on eagles, we're gonna look at some outstanding things in this particular area. The first thing we're going to begin to look at is we're going to see the eagle as the home builder, the domestic side of the eagle. And then we're going to see after that those young eaglets grow up and begin to enter in through adolescence into maturity. And we're going to find out how the eagle finds its mate. This is, and I've got to admit, I have brought this all over the world. Literally, I have people in South Central America have heard me talk about this. All over Africa, India, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, literally all over the world, throughout Europe and Russia. People have heard me develop these themes. And if there's one area that no matter where I've gone, when I return to, that they want to hear again, it's what you are about to hear. So I want you to open up your eyes, open up your heart, and get ready for something that I believe is going to be insightful. Not only insightful, but it's going to be impacting. First of all, let's go back to the book of Isaiah, chapter 40 and verse 28. I want to read this again. Incredible verse. Have you not known, have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor grows weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the weak. To those that have no might, he increases strength. Even youth shall faint and be weary, which is, that's amazing within itself, because young people usually do not grow weary. But look at the comparison. Even a young person will faint and grow weary. A young man shall utterly fall. But those that wait upon the Lord, those that move with God, that move with the timing of God, the direction of God, the presence of God. We talked about that, how that happens. They shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as of eagles. They shall run and not grow weary. They shall walk and not faint. I want you to keep that in mind. And I want you to go, and I want to read another portion from Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 11, because here's where we begin this. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 11, as an eagle stirs up its nest, hovers over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, and carrying them on its wings, so the Lord alone led him. Wow. We're gonna find out what that means. We're going to find out. Okay, let's fast forward ourselves. After the marriage of the eagles, we're going to come back to this, but let's fast forward. After the marriage of the eagles has taken place, they are tremendous home builders. One thing you'll discover about the eagle, they're not home wreckers. Vultures are home wreckers. Eagles are home builders. They build their nest high. They always find high locations. You don't find eagles in lowlands. You usually always find them up high, the mountains, way up in trees, the cleft of a rock. They always build their nest high. Of course, that's a representation of being close to God. As the eagle builds its nest in a high place, God has called us to live in a high place. There's always a high call. The Bible speaks of the high calling of God in Christ. There's never a low call, a low calling. We're not chickens. We're not turkeys. We don't gravel in the dirt, in the mud, in the debris. We build something high. Just like the eagle, they're close to God. The nest represents the eagle's life. Our life needs to be built high and close to God. The eagle will spend 50 years at that location. See, like I said earlier, it's not a migratory bird. It's not a fair-weathered creature. The eagle doesn't leave because difficulties occur. Once that eagle begins, and the whole nest is, like I said, it's a representation of a person's relationship with God. Our relationship is high. Our relationship is lofty. Our relationship is close to God. It's permanent. It goes for the duration of our life. It's not seasonal. We don't build a relationship and then destroy that relationship. We spend time where that's concerned. When the eagle begins to develop and build this nest, the nest is if you've ever seen an eagle's nest, it has a tremendous foundation of branches and limbs. And then as the progression of that nest takes place, foundation's immense, and then it begins to tear itself and tear itself and tear itself, and you go from big branches to smaller branches to limbs. Then you begin to go to brush, just brush, and then after that you begin the eagle will line the inside of its nest with fur. It'll sometimes even pull out some of its own feathers, but it'll line the inside. It might be rabbit fur, squirrel fur, from a kill, but it'll line it with fur. And then, as time progresses, the little eaglets are born. Now just think of how they're born. Can I say that the eagles don't have, there might be 1 or 2 eggs at a time. They only have 1 or 2 young at a time. They don't have these massive litters. They just have a small amount. But the young are born, and look how they're born. They're born into warmth. They're born into love. They're born into parents that have taken the time to care for them. What examples for us with our own children. We want to always be a provider. The Bible said a person that can't provide for his own house is worse than an infidel. God expects us to be good, healthy providers. When our children are born, they're born into love, they're born into warmth, they're born into caring, they're born into comfort, they're born into something. And that's what the eaglets are. And those little eaglets, they begin to grow up. Of course, all they know at this point, is just comfort. Mama comes with food, daddy comes with food. I mentioned earlier that both the parents care for the raising of their children. The mother might be there with them, but the father's out finding the food, bringing that food to the mother to feed those eaglets, those little eaglets. So they're born like that. And they begin to grow up, and all they do is just mama flies into the nest, and little Johnny's over there, and little Susie's over there, and all they got their mouth wide open. Mama drops in this, and she drops in this, and she drops in this, and she drops in this, and whatever. And they're just, they just eat and play and sleep and eat and play and sleep, and life is wonderful. It's outstanding. It can't happen any better. I'm surrounded by this giant home with fur, and it's comfortable, it's wonderful. And I've got a mom and dad that provide for me. Life couldn't be any better. Whatever I want, they're out there hunting for it and providing for it. And really, the little eaglet, all it's doing is opening up its mouth. It's beautiful. And then they just get a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And then listen, the day comes. They don't know this day's coming. The day comes where mama flies into the nest. There's little Johnny. There's little Susie, mouth wide open. There's no food. So they got their mouth wide open again. Just squawking or whatever they do. And nothing's coming in their mouth. They can't understand it. Is mama all right? Mama's here, but mama got no food. Up until this time, mama always had food. Now mama doesn't have any food. What is going on? And they're just looking at her. And there's nothing coming their way. And so, and then their mama does something that they never seen her do. She starts ripping up the nest. Oh yeah, she gets inside the nest. She starts pulling the fur and throwing it over. pulling the fur and throwing it over. She starts ripping it up. The Bible refers to it stirring up the nest. She just starts ripping this thing apart. Johnny and Susie are looking at her and they're talking to themselves. They're thinking, what happened? What's wrong with Mama? This is not life as we know it. I mean, we've been enjoying nothing up until this time. Everything's been provided, and now Mama's seemingly something's got into her, and we don't know what. Maybe she got an argument with Dad, but she's tearing up the whole nest. So she keeps on doing it. She throws the fur out and so on and so forth. And as this happens, these little eaglets, there's nothing underneath them now but sticks, branches, and it's poking them. So life went from comfort to discomfort very, very quickly. So what happens, now there's a progression here. As this begins to happen, what they begin to do is they're forced now to stand up and to move towards the end of the nest, where it's just a little more palatable, a little more comfortable. But being on the edge of the nest, the wind, for the first time they start feeling the effects of wind. See, once they were in the bowl of the inside of that nest, the wind could be blowing, but it's going right over them. But now, because the inside's so uncomfortable, they're forced to the extremity of that massive nest, and the wind's blowing them, and they're teetering back and forth. Just teetering. Now hang on to these points. They're going to come back later. They're teetering back and forth. So that eaglet begins to, begins to take his talons and he digs them on the side of that nest just to hang on, just to negotiate the wind that's moving them and rocking them so they don't fall out. So that little young eaglet is digging his talons in and digging them in to negotiate that wind. And then as he's doing that, all of a sudden, Mama does something that scares the living daylights out of both of them. Mama comes in there and she smacks that little eaglet right out of the nest. I mean, it's thousands of feet down to the ground, and she just takes this little guy and smacks him with her wing, and he starts to plummet. He starts to fall. He's doing a free fall. And he's just going down, and Mama's looking at him, and he's just falling. That's my imitation of an eagle falling. And all of a sudden, Mama just on the edge of the nest just dives towards him, and he's falling. And she's diving towards him. And right before, he's a free fall, and all of a sudden, bam, she snatches him. And he catches her wing. And he's hanging on to her wing as she begins to glide through the pathless air. Now, what's going on? She has forced them to begin to grow up. She has stirred up the nest, and there's times in our life, whether we like it or not, that for us to go from point A to point B, for us to mature, all of us, myself included, love comfort. All of us enjoy the niceties. There are days that we wish would never end. All of us enjoy the times of our life where everything is going the way we feel it ought to be going. Life is wonderful. Life is beautiful. Things are wonderful. But that's not reality. And I don't know about you, but we don't push. We don't dig in. We don't develop ourselves under nothing but perfect conditions. Trees only put down roots to the degree that the wind pushes the branches. That's an absolute truth. Kites don't rise with the wind, they rise against the wind. It's only when adversity begins to strike, it's only when the comfort that we're used to is no longer there, that we begin to take our heart, our life, our talons, so to speak, and we dig them into something. And we say, my God, like the Bible says, having done all to stand, stand. We begin to dig in. We begin to make decisions that are stronger. We begin to advance within our own life. We begin to look at life and say, that's it. I've got to make a stand. I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. It's only when the comfort zones of our life have been removed, and it's at those times that we usually make the greatest progress in our own personal character, life, and family, etc., etc., etc. You know what I'm talking about? Come on, we're all like that. Very few people make great advancements in perfect times. The Apostle Paul did not write the epistles inside of a 5-star luxury hotel. He wrote most of them inside of a prison. The advancement of the gospel has largely been done under difficult situations. You and I, without exception, could look back at our life right now, and if we do, some of the worst times, hindsight has told us, have been some of the greatest times of our life. In other words, when we were going through hell, we didn't like it 1 minute. But when we look back at some of those difficulties, the lessons we learned, the decisions we made, the things we fought for, stood for, the pushing ourselves into the bosom and the heart of God, and the advancements we made in our relationship with God and other people were stronger at those moments than any other time in our life. And that's when we made some of our greatest progress in life. Am I correct? Listen, that's my life. It was when problems and difficulties presented themselves to me that I pressed in harder to God and found solutions. See, it's the mother stirring up the nest. Sometimes God moving us into uncomfortable situations that we learn something. And here's what the eagle learns. The eagle has to be pushed out of the nest. And when he's pushed out of the nest, he begins to learn from his mother to negotiate the wind. That is a tremendous illustration of us learning how to negotiate the Spirit of the living God, the presence of God, how to negotiate walking with God, walking through difficulties, walking through situations where in one essence you really don't know how they're going to turn out, but your faith is in someone that is unseen. That eagle has to learn to put confidence and faith into something he cannot see. You cannot see the wind. You could only sense the effects of the wind. But nobody's ever seen the wind. We feel the wind. We see the effects of the wind. But we can't see the wind. It is invisible. God is the unseen one. He's invisible. And there are times in our life where we have to step out of the nest of comfort, the nest of visibility, and walk in the invisibility of life and put trust and confidence. Faith is a leap that says, I don't see him, I can't touch him, I can't be, but I'm putting confidence, faith in God. That God that I can't see, I know he is with me because he says he is. The God that I can't feel, I know that he's with me because I can sense his presence. The God that, and I put confidence that he'll guide me through, he will govern me through, and he will bring me through whatever I'm facing. There is an invisibleness to life that requires faith, and faith pleases God. Oh, listen. I want to reach out and grab somebody right now. It just turns me on to think about that. That God brings us to those times in our life where we learn to trust, and as faith grows, faith in God, faith in God's providence, faith that God sees me, faith that God wants only the best for me, faith that God's guiding me, leading me, directing me. that the future will be great. I don't see it all. I don't understand it. It's invisible. It's the pathless currents of the air. It's the pathless currents of faith in God. But when I jump out and I begin to take that plunge, I begin to learn to negotiate the direction that God wants me to take. I learn to catch this current over here. I begin to sense that God is moving me. He's urging me in this direction. And as I begin to move in that direction, I begin to catch the current of God, the wind of God, and it moves me. And then as I move in that current, that wind, that direction, God begins to move me in another direction. Maybe years later, and I begin to sense that God's moving again. And his breath, his wind is beginning to push me in another direction. And I lift up my faith. That's my wing. I lift up my faith, the wings of my life, the faith of my life, and I catch that current. Until as I go back and look at my life, I begin to end up where God wants me to be. Oh, it's a powerful illustration. My God, my God, my God, it's a powerful illustration. And it's one we learn and we take every day. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. For he that comes to God must believe that he is, Hebrews tells us, and that he is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. And so, all these illustrations are inside of this. That young eaglet begins to grow up. He begins to learn the pathless ways of the air. He begins to negotiate the breeze, the wind. And as he does, he learns the way of the wind, which we learn the ways of God. And then that eagle moves into adolescence. From there, he begins to move into being a young, mature adult. And now it's time. The eagle knows that it's time to find a mate. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? It's time. So how does it happen? Okay, let me show you. Let me explain to you the process of how the eagle finds a mate. First of all, I want you to know that the boy eagle, I'm making this simple, okay? I'm making this simple. I'm not using technical terms. I'm using simple terms. The boy eagle always pursues the girl eagle. Did you hear me? I'm going to say it because, my goodness, I mean, we've got this whole thing screwed up. I mean, we really do. Excuse my bluntness. We got this whole thing tangled. We got more girls pursuing guys than we've ever had in the history of Western culture. That's not the way it works, honey. Don't you dare pursue him. You let him go after you. The male pursues the female. Huh? That's the way it works. She always pursues him. Just get that down. Young lady, if I got some single girl, listen to me right now. Let me just say this to you. Love at first sight is often cured by a second look. Did you hear me? When you think you understand him, just look again. Okay, let him pursue you. You don't pursue him. Now, here's what she does. She just flapping along one day, just minding her own business. Oh, this beautiful young eagle girl in her 20s, maybe 30s, who knows. She just flapping along, just gliding along, moving with God, carrying those pathless currents of the air, when all of a sudden she flies past this young eagle boy, young eagle man. That's better, huh? And he looks at her and he's thinking, oh my God, she's a looker. Oh, dear God, dear God. I mean, his heart drops. And he sees her and he starts flying after her. Wherever she goes, he's a-going. She moves in this direction, he moves in that direction. I mean, he is going hot and heavy after that young beauty queen eagle. And she sees him. She sees him, but she won't pay no attention to him. Listen, when he comes after you, don't pay him never no mind. Don't pay any attention to him. Just keep flying. Keep serving God. Keep living every day. Keep your life fulfilled. Don't get married because you're lonely. Oh, come on. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're not lonely. You might be alone, but you're not even alone. God's with you. So you can't even say you're alone. Don't get married out of need. Get married out of vision. And we'll say that again. Don't get married out of need. Get married out of vision. My goodness, don't marry somebody identical to you. If you're going to marry somebody, I'm telling you guys something right now. You're going to find a girl. I want to find a girl just like me. Well, then don't get married. Stay single. If she's just like you, what good are you going to do with her? You're not going to do any more than you're doing right now. Find somebody that shares the commonality of your vision, but has diversities that are uniquely apart from you. So when you come together, you can do anything. One can put 1,000 to flight. Two can put 10,000. Become what my wife and I have always become now for over 30 years, a husband and wife. Unbeatable team. I love it. See, the world, I found out a long time ago, the world gets out of the way for the man or the woman that know where they're going. Wow. We know where we're going. World gets out of your way. Know where you're going in life. Don't get married out of need. Get married because of vision. Man, that's good. That's just flat good. Now, here's what she does. So she's flying, he's flying. He's following her. He's pursuing her. She don't pay any attention to him. Don't pay any attention to him. So all of a sudden, he keeps on following. She's going to wait to see how long he tags along. He keeps on tagging along. Here's what she does. All of a sudden, she swoops down to the ground. And she picks up a stick. Fair-sized stick. Picks up a stick. And he's watching her. And she starts flying higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. I mean, she'll literally fly nearly 10,000 feet with this stick, hanging onto this stick, and he's behind her, and then all of a sudden, she drops the stick. And the stick just starts falling to the ground. Whoa, 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 whoa. The stick's falling. That's my imitation of a stick falling. Sounds like the eagle falling. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And he sees the stick falling, so being the gentleman, he begins to fly after that stick as fast and as furious as he can. And he's got to catch the stick in midair. Did you hear me? He's got to catch that stick in midair. If he fails to catch that stick while it's falling, it's the end. This relationship is not going any further. She is finished with him. If he catches the stick, then she looks at him. Yeah, pretty good. And she keeps on flying. He's bewildered. Good. Ladies, always keep him bewildered. Okay? Just keep the guy guessing. Don't ever tell a man the secrets of your heart until you're married to him. You hear me? Don't ever tell him the secrets of your heart until you say, I do. Don't ever do it. My goodness, don't ever do it. That's stupid. Just keep the guy guessing the whole time. That'll keep him hungry. And then she just keeps on flying away, so he'll lose interest in the stick and he'll drop it. And when he does, she goes down and finds another stick, a bigger one, a heavier one. Grabs the second stick, flies not as high this time, not as high, but she flies up again. He's following her. He's guessing what's she going to do now, and she gets up there a few thousand feet. And she drops that stick, and it starts hurtling towards the ground. Woo, 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 and he starts going after that stick as fast as he could. Shh, shh, woo, 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 shh, 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 woo, 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 shoo, shoo, boom, boom, bam, and he grabs the second stick. I love sound effects. Grabs the second stick. She looks at him. Good. I mean, she gives him a little more encouragement. Ladies, give him a little encouragement. Give him a little encouragement. You don't want to show no encouragement. That, Give him a little encouragement that goes a long way. And then he grabs the second stick. And it's heavier. And he starts flying. And she sees it. That's good. That's good. Now listen. If he fails to grab that second stick, it's all over. Got to grab it. Got to get it midair. Can't hit the ground. Got to get it midair. Now, if he does it, she just keeps on flying, flying, flying. Eventually he'll drop that stick. That's all right. You know what she does? She gets another stick. A big one. Big. She goes all the way down, finds, a log, honey. A big old stick, and grabs it. That's her grabbing it. And she starts getting that flying, and she gets that little higher and a little higher and a little higher. This time she doesn't go very high. This is the test of all tests. She only goes up maybe 500, 600, 700 feet, and she's got this big old log. And then she's got that thing, and she drops it. Woo, woo, woo. See, it's a big one. Woo, woo. And he sees it plummeting to the earth, and he dives after that big old log. And he grabs the thing, grabs that old log, and just starts to move them wings as hard as he could, and she sees it. And boy, and when he grabs the third log, he's got to grab it. If he fails to grab it, it's over with. I said it's over with. But he successfully grabs it. And when he grabs the third log, then she knows. She knows. Oh, she knows. He's the one. He passed the test. Ooh, man. Oh, I'll tell you, happy days are here again. She passed the test. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. What in the world did dropping logs and sticks have anything to do with getting married? Years ago, I don't even know when. I'm trying to think how long ago this might have been. But let me just look here. I think this was back in the mid-90s. I taught this one time to our church. It was a long time ago. At that time, we had a lot of young single adults. And I taught them, when I got to this one message, I spent time on it. It caused something to happen in our church. That year, we conducted close to 100 weddings in our church. And this is absolute truth, that on many of those weddings, a lot of people tie tin cans to the bumper of the car when they go off on their honeymoon. There was logs and sticks tied with rope to the bumper of cars leaving for their honeymoon. It was hilarious. And I'd have young girls come up to me and said, I've been dropping logs. I said, did he catch them? She said, he caught every one of them. We're ready to get married. Now, the big question in your mind, and I'm going to come back to it, is what in the world does this have to do with getting married? It has everything to do with it. You see, those logs are the test of three things. There's three things that every woman has got to know before she says, I will, and before they both say, I do. She has to say, I will, before they say, I do. Are you hearing me? And there's three things that every woman needs to be confident of. And him being able to catch those three branches that are falling with his talons represent three areas of his life that she has to know. The first thing that they represent are his ability to withstand adversity. It's a character revealer. You see, the strength of the eagle's talons show the ability of the eagle to withstand adversity. Remember, I told you when we first got into this that when the eagle's being developed and growing, the mom pulls out all the feathers and the comfort, and the eagle's forced to the exterior of the nest where the adversity of wind begins to blow. And for the eagle to keep its equilibrium, to keep its balance, it has to begin to dig its talons into the side of the nest. That's where the strength of the talon begins to be developed. That talon represents the eagle's ability to withstand adversity. The ability to withstand adversity is one of the greatest revealers of character that any of us have. A woman never wants to marry a man of cheap character. Remember that the higher the gloss means the cheaper the wood. You only put a lot of gloss on cheap wood. And men with a lot of gloss are usually have cheap character on the inside of them. Men that are big talkers are usually talking a lot to hide their lack of character that's on the inside. Remember, young lady, you don't marry his looks. You don't marry his personality. You marry his character. You've got to determine that this man has character. Now, there's many ways to accomplish that. But there needs to be an engagement period that's at least long enough. Now, I don't mean 2 and 3 years engagement. That can be counterproductive. But you need to at least see the man in several seasons. There's 4 seasons to every year. I think a good engagement is close to 1 year because you begin to see him in different seasons. Can I also inject this? Always watch the way a man treats his mother. If the son doesn't treat his mother with respect, he'll never treat you with respect. The way he treats his mama is the way he's going to treat his wife someday. Now, I'm not talking about a mama's boy. Don't marry a mama's boy. They're worthless. Because when problems come, mama always comes and bails him out. And he's going to be more loyal to mama than he is to you. Don't do that, honey. If you see him always wanting to be with mama, stay away from him. You want a man that loves his mother, respects his mother, honors his mother. But he's not a little mama's boy. He's not pampered. You got to marry a man with character because life is going to have adversity. Life's going to have difficulty. You want a man that in the midst of hell breaking out is going to stand for what's good, what's right, what's noble. And that's the way he's going to be a husband to you. He's going to be a father to those children, and he's going to stand up for what's right, as like Joshua said, in the midst of hell. As for me and my house, we will serve the living God. That's the kind of man you want. A man that will stand for principle when problems pursue him. When all difficulty breaks loose, a principle becomes greater to him than a problem or a difficulty. There, you have to begin to see his character. Can he withstand adversity? Can he withstand? If he is negotiating in the middle. If he is negotiating a principle in the middle of adversity while you and him are seeing each other, he's no good. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That I can't be any more blunt than I am. That is very important. That's the first thing that this represents. The second thing this represents is ability to provide for you. See, that eagle catches all of its prey with its talons. It swoops down. It grabs the fish, the rabbit, the squirrel, whatever. It's grabbing it with its talons, and it's also it's provision and protection. It kills the snake with its talons. So the talons, the ability to catch those logs, represents its ability to provide and protect you. Can he provide for you? Is he a good provider? Don't marry a man that's lazy. Don't marry, oh my goodness, you're going to have bill collectors calling you up right and left. I said before, a man that can't provide for his own family is worse than an infidel. Don't marry a man that can't provide. Don't marry a dreamer. A visionary is one thing. The difference between a visionary and a dreamer are real simple. A man that has a vision will exercise goals to accomplish that vision. A man that's a dreamer is content to do nothing but dream about what he might be able to do someday, but probably will never do. And he's content to live within the circle of a dream, but never the reality of pursuing a goal or a vision. Are you hearing what I'm saying? There's a world of difference between the two. Dreamers, they're content to dream. Doers look at a dream and say, wonderful, great, fabulous. Now let's do something about it. There's a huge difference. Huge difference. So don't marry somebody who's got pie in the sky. Someday we're going to do this, and I want to do this, and they can't do anything. I have watched so many weak men that promise this young girl the moon and can't even have the decency to go out and at least get a job that has a paycheck attached to it so they can provide and pay the bills and give her a nice home. Live in apartments for 16 years instead of providing her something of stability. The eagle provides stability. The male eagle provides stability for his wife. Make sure he can provide and care for you and also protect you. Not just physically. I don't mean some guys won't beat up anybody that looks at you. That might be a part of it. But a man that can protect you spiritually. You know, I pastored for 22 years, and pastoring for 22 years, it's no secret that more women attend church than men. It used to always aggravate me. See these gals come to church, their husbands sit at home. That's not a protector. That's not a protector. We used to have children's dedication. I have dedicated to God thousands of children, and every time we did a baby dedication, used to watch these young girls, and I'd see this husband or boyfriend, whatever the case might be, standing next to her. Never saw the guy before in church. He shows up to dedicate his child, and I'll be honest with you, he used to grind on me, and I'd look at him and I'd say, you know, there's nothing magical about dedicating your baby to God. If you don't live it, that child's not going to live it. Children, more important pay to what you do than what you say. Children don't do what you say, they do what you do. So I'd tell this guy, admonish this young man, unless you're living it, unless you're going to walk this thing out, unless you're going to be one that prays for you. That's how you protect your family. You pray for your family. You make sure you got family devotions. You make sure you're standing for what's right, good, holy, and noble before God and man. That's what a man is. He's withstands adversity. He's a provider and a protector. And the last thing, the talons reveal his ability to care for her, to build her home. And that works in the area of provision, but to build, to make something, to really make a home, not a house, but to make a home, to fill that home with the treasures of God, to build memories, to build a life, to care for that woman, to love her. Every man should literally adore the woman he's married to hold her in high esteem as a woman of God, the one that God brought into his life. That is what every woman wants. And when you find that, honey, oh man, say I will. And you want to say I will so you can stand before a minister of God and look at each other and say, I do. Wow, 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 wow. Now, once this process has been gone through, and you are satisfied in your life, in your heart, that this man he's got character, he can withstand adversity. He'll provide and protect. And he has the ability to build a home, not a house, but a home, and fill it with the treasures of faith, of hope, of love. Those are the treasures you fill your home with. Those are the memories that last a lifetime. Then, are you ready? Now listen, stop, time out. When that happens, you're ready to get married. Oh, you're ready. Now watch what the eagle does. This young, energetic, strong, character-filled, provider, protector-filled, home builder, young eagle passes the test. She says, I will. Now they're going to say, I do. Now here's what they do. I told you this is going to happen. They're going to fly. They're not going to fly down. Eagles don't get married on the ground. Eagles get married as high as they can. They literally fly in the arena of 15,000 feet, close to 5,000 meters. They fly up. Now, why do they do that? Because the eagle gets married in the presence of God. And the eagle recognizes that marriage is a high calling. It's not a low calling. You don't get married on the ground. You don't get married in Vegas. You don't get married by a JP. That's not a high call. That's a cheap call. You get married in the presence of Almighty God, because marriage is a high call. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. That's so good. Now, so they fly up 15,000 feet. When they get up there, they literally are in midair facing each other at this time. You got to picture this in your mind. You see there, you've probably seen statues of this. You got the girl eagle and the young man eagle, and they're facing each other, flapping their wings, facing each other, and then they do something that's incredible. They reach out with both of their talons and they lock them together. Lock them. He locks his right talon into her right. He locks his left into her left. And so they're facing each other with both of their talons locked into each other. And they start to do a barrel roll. They literally flap their wings and they roll. They do barrel rolls, 15,000 feet, with their talons locked into each other, turning, going head over heel, barrel roll, barrel roll, barrel roll, barrel roll. And as they do it, they start screeching. Just start screeching. Now, are you picturing this? Now let me give you the significance of all this. Powerful. It's powerful. By locking their talons together, they're locking. It's symbolic. They're locking their life together. They're locking their character together. They're literally saying that we are one flesh. We are joined together. You know, it's the symbolism sometimes of the ring. The ring is in the form of a never-ending circle, which means our love for each other should never be broken. The ring is made out of something of value, which means that God puts tremendous value on our marriage and our relationship. Marriage is a high calling of God, and they begin to lock themselves together. Locking their heart together, their life together, and then they begin to do these barrel rolls. They're very significant. They're making a circle. They're making, just like the ring, they're making a circle. What they're saying is our love is, you see, a circle is not broken. Our love for each other can never be broken. Can never be broken. It's a never-ending circle. A never-ending circle. And by doing those barrel rolls, it's symbolic of their marriage, saying adversity won't break it. Difficulty won't break it. Sickness won't break it. Situations won't break it. We are married until death do we part. They're forming that by those barrel rolls. And they're now notice they're going in those barrel rolls, you're going head over heel. Which means that from this point on, if you want to make a marriage great, always bend over backwards for your mate. Ooh, man, I'm going to say it again. It's symbolic of saying, I'm willing to bend over backwards for you. I'm willing to give you my best. Marriage is not a 50-50 proposition. It's 100% on top of 100%. I'm going to bend over backwards. They're going to bend over backwards for each other. And then in the process of all this symbolism, they begin to screech. They begin to cry out. It's literally the screams, listen. The screams of joy. Oh, I love it. They're married. Screams of joy. You see, joy, it's the joy of life that allows us to see the beauty of life. I got to say that again. That's so powerful. It is the joy of life that allows us to see the beauty of life. Marriage was meant to be enjoyed, not endured. Let me just close on one story on this particular segment on Eagle. Let me just close on this. It's an old story, this true story. There was two men in a hospital, laying there in a hospital bed, one right next to the other. One man had a window next to his bed. The other man didn't. They were both in bad, critical condition, and neither one was expected to live that long. The man whose bed was next to the window would raise his bed up every day and look out the window, and he would begin to tell the man sitting next to him that couldn't see out the window all the beauty that he saw. And every day the man sitting next to the man that had the window would look forward to hearing the stories. He would ask him, he said, well, what do you see today? What do you see today? Oh, he said, it's beautiful. There's a gorgeous park out there. Wonderful, beautiful oak trees. The grass is so green. The sky is so blue. Oh yeah, look at that mother pushing her new little baby. Oh, it's wonderful. And look at this young couple walking arm in arm. And the man would lay in the bed next to this other man, and he could just picture all of the beauty out the window. And every day he looked forward to this man beginning to describe what he could see out of the window in the hospital room. He looked forward to it. But then something happened as the days and the weeks progressed. The man that couldn't physically see out the window, but could only hear what the stories of the man relating of what was happening out the window, that other man began to grow envious. He didn't have a window. He couldn't see. He couldn't lift his bed. He was in such condition. He was stuck in that hospital. He began to grow envious of this man. His envy turned into jealousy. His jealousy turned into hate. One night, when the man next to him, in the middle of the night, he began to have a problem breathing. Instead of helping him call for the nurse to come in, that little button you push, he pulled it away from him. The man had no one to call, couldn't get to anybody. And as a result, that night, the man passed away. The other man thought to himself, oh, he's gone, he's dead. Now it's my turn to begin to look out the window. He got to see all the beauty. I only got to hear the description. But now I get to see it for myself every day. The next morning, the nurse walked in, checking her station. She saw the man had passed away. She was sad. She covered him. They wheeled him in his hospital bed out of the room. The man next to him said, could I have his place? Can you push my bed next to the window? She said, I don't see why not. So she pushed his bed next to the window. Oh, he couldn't wait. Now the window belonged to him. He can now see out of the window. He pushed that little button on that hospital bed, and he raised it and raised it and raised it and raised it until his head and his eyes got equal to the window. He couldn't wait. He turned his head. He looked out of the window. And the only thing that was there was the wall of the opposite building. There was nothing out that window. You see, what he didn't realize is that man in his compassion had come up. He had described the beauty with the eyes of his imagination, not with the eyes of a physical window. There was nothing there. You see, happiness is a choice. It's not based on what you want to see, but it's based on what you choose to see. It's not based on what's physically there. Happiness is not from without. Happiness and joy are from within. You don't love your wife because she's perfect. You don't love life because everything's going your way. You choose to be happy. You choose to see the best, to look for the best. And you find out that what you look for, you'll always find. Look at the person you're married to and see all the good traits. And when you see the good, you'll bring out the good. Are you listening to me? You see, if you believe you're married to a thoroughbred, you'll never treat them like an old nag. And they'll always become like the person you see. Well, listen, we're going to get into this more. The next one we're going to talk on the next session. We're going to talk about, listen, the ugly eagle. Oh, you don't want to miss this. This is incredible. I didn't think eagles were ugly. Oh, you're wrong. I'm going to describe to you and talk to you about the ugly eagle.